$600. That's how much smaller the deposit was. Not the whole check. Just $600 gone out of a payment that had landed the same amount on the same day for 4 years straight. No letter came first, no phone call. Nobody from the Social Security Administration picked up the phone to say a word about it. The money just showed up smaller, and it stayed smaller the next month and the month after that. Now picture the version of that morning where you're standing in your kitchen looking at your banking app and the number is wrong. And you go back through everything you did. You didn't lie to anyone. You didn't cheat. You didn't file some sketchy paperwork or take money you weren't entitled to. You did nothing wrong. And that is exactly the problem. Because there are 5 completely legal ways the Social Security Administration can reduce your check, and not one of them requires you to have done anything wrong. They don't require fraud. They don't require a mistake. 4 of the 5 don't even require you to be notified in advance in any way you'd actually notice. They run automatically every month in the background on millions of accounts, yours included. Some of them are temporary. You take the hit, you get the money back later, and most people who panic about it never needed to. One of them is not. One of these 5 is permanent. Once it's triggered, that benefit is gone. Not withheld, not delayed, not recalculated into a bigger payment down the road. Gone. And the people it hits hardest are usually widows and divorced spouses who made a completely ordinary life decision years earlier with absolutely no idea what it would cost them. By the end of this video, you're going to know all 5. You're going to know which ones are recoverable and which one isn't. And you're going to know, honestly, whether you're already exposed to one of them right now, because a lot of you watching are, and you don't know it yet. Before we go any further, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a CPA, and I'm not your financial advisor. What you're about to hear is education, not a personalized plan. The rules are real, the numbers are real, and when you find yourself standing in one of these 5, take it to a professional who actually works for you and get it handled properly. And if your check has ever come in lighter than you expected, even once, even by a little, tell me in the comments. Tell me the amount. I want to see how many of you have already been hit by one of these 5 and were never told which one. Let's find out fast whether this is about you. Have you worked a single day past the year you started collecting? Not a career, a day. Part-time at the hardware store. Consulting 2 afternoons a month. Driving for somebody's delivery app on weekends because the mortgage isn't quite gone yet. Do you owe the federal government money? Not the IRS necessarily. Any federal agency. A student loan you took out for yourself in the 80s. A loan you co-signed for a kid or a grandkid who stopped paying it years ago and never told you. Have you remarried? Or are you a widow, a widower, a divorced spouse? Anyone collecting on someone else's record instead of your own? Have you had a life change in the past year that Social Security would want to know about, and you weren't 100% sure whether you were supposed to call them, so you figured you'd get to it? If you said yes to any one of those, you are already inside the blast radius of at least one of these 5. That's not a scare tactic, and it's not a maybe. Those are the 4 triggers, and the Social Security Administration checks for every one of them automatically. That's the part that gets people. They picture a person somewhere reviewing their file, weighing it, deciding. There isn't one. These are systems talking to other systems. Payroll data flows to Social Security. Federal debt records flow to the Treasury. Marriage records exist. The check gets adjusted, the money moves, and the human being on the receiving end of it finds out when the deposit lands. And the reason so many people get blindsided isn't that they're careless. It's that every single one of these 5 rules is buried in a place normal people never go looking. A handbook section, a regulation number, a footnote on a form nobody hands you at the moment it would have mattered. The first two on this list will cost you money temporarily. The third one, the one I'm going to spend the most time on, costs you money for the rest of your life. And you can trigger it by doing something that on any other day, in any other context, everyone around you would be congratulating you for. Reason one, you went back to work. If you're collecting Social Security and you're under full retirement age for the whole year, the earnings test kicks in at $24,480 in wages for 2026. Everything above that line, Social Security withholds $1 for every $2 you earned. So a part-time job paying $34,000 a year puts you about $9,500 over the limit. Half of that gets withheld. That's roughly $4,760 taken out of your benefit for the year, for the crime of working. The year you actually reach full retirement age, the rules loosen. The limit jumps to $65,160, and the withholding drops to $1 for every 3 above it. And it only applies to the months before you hit full retirement age. Once you're at full retirement age, it stops completely. No limit. Earn $1 million. Nobody touches your check. Now, the honest part, and this is where I'm going to contradict half the internet, that withheld money is not gone. When you hit full retirement age, Social Security recalculates your benefit and credits you back for the months they withheld. Your monthly payment goes up. Over time, you get it back. I've watched people quit good jobs over this rule, turn down work they needed, all to avoid a hit that was temporary and recoverable the entire time. So, if you're working past retirement age right now, comment your age, and I'll tell you which side of that line you're standing on. Because reason one takes your money and eventually gives it back. Reason two takes it and hands it to somebody else. Reason two, you owe the federal government money, and you may not even remember owing it. The Treasury Offset Program lets the federal government take part of your Social Security check to pay down delinquent federal debt. Not just taxes, federal non-tax debt. Defaulted student loans sit right at the top of that list. Here's how it actually runs. A debt goes delinquent. After 120 days, the agency holding it can refer it to Treasury for offset. Before that referral, they're required to send you a warning letter at least 60 days ahead. Then the offset starts and it comes straight out of your benefit before the money ever reaches your bank. 60 days of notice in a letter from a federal agency about a debt you might have stopped thinking about 20 years ago. How many of those letters do you think get opened and understood before the money starts moving? And that's the part that should make you angry. Because a lot of these defaulted student loans aren't even the retiree's own education. They're loans co-signed for a child, for a grandchild. The kid stopped paying, never mentioned it, and the co-signer finds out through a smaller deposit at 71 years old. Now, one important thing, and I want to be precise with you rather than dramatic. As of this recording, the Department of Education has paused involuntary collections on defaulted federal student loans, which means these particular offsets aren't running right now. Paused is not the same as abolished. The program is intact. The legal authority is intact. It's been switched off before and switched back on before. And for other federal non-tax debts, the mechanism never stopped at all. So if you're carrying an old federal debt or you co-signed something for family a long time ago, that's not resolved. That's parked. Reason 3 doesn't get paused. Reason 3 doesn't get recalculated. Reason 3 is the permanent one. Reason 3, you got married. That's it. That's the whole trigger. You fell in love again and you signed a marriage license and you did it before your 60th birthday. If you're a widow or a widower collecting a survivor benefit on your late spouse's record, remarrying before age 60 permanently ends your eligibility for that benefit. Not suspended while you're married, not reduced, ended. If you're divorced and collecting a survivor benefit on a deceased ex-spouse's record, same rule, same age, same result. 59 years old, you remarry, that survivor benefit is finished. 60 years and 1 day, you remarry, you keep it. Every single dollar of it. The exact same wedding, the exact same person. And the only variable that decided whether you kept a benefit for the rest of your life was which side of a birthday it landed on. There is one narrow exception. If you're disabled, remarriage after age 50 doesn't terminate a survivor benefit. That's the carve-out. It's real, and it's narrow, and it does not cover most people. Now here's where it gets worse, and this is the part that catches people who thought they'd done their homework. Everything I just described is the survivor benefit, the one you collect when your former spouse has died. There's a different benefit for a divorced spouse whose ex is still alive. Married 10 years or longer, currently unmarried, you can collect on that living ex-spouse's record. That one has no age 60 protection at all. If you're collecting a divorced spouse benefit on a living ex and you remarry at any age, that benefit ends. 62, 68, 75, doesn't matter. There is no birthday that saves it. The age 60 rule people have vaguely heard about does not apply to you. And if you're relying on it, you're relying on the wrong rule. Two benefits, nearly identical names, completely different consequences for the exact same decision. So run the arithmetic on what that actually costs, because eligibility ended is an abstraction until you attach a number to it. A survivor benefit running $1,800 a month, collected from 60 to 85, is roughly $540,000. That is the price tag on a wedding date. And nobody at the courthouse mentions it because it isn't the courthouse's job to mention it. There is one way back, and I want you to hear it clearly because it matters. If the later marriage itself ends, by death, by divorce, or by annulment, eligibility for that survivor benefit can be restored. The door isn't welded shut, but think about what that sentence actually requires of you. Your remarriage has to fail before the benefit comes back. That is not a plan. That is a consolation prize. So if you're a widow, a widower, or a divorced spouse watching this, did anyone ever tell you about the age 60 rule before you needed to know it? A lawyer, an advisor, anyone at Social Security? Comment below. I want to see how many of you learned about this the way most people do, which is afterward. And share this one, not with everybody, with the specific person in your life who's been widowed and is seeing someone new. There's a real chance that a conversation this week saves them a number with 6 digits in it. Reason 4, you didn't call them fast enough. Social Security requires you to report life changes. Marriage, divorce, a death, a move, going back to work. Some of those are exactly the events I've just spent this video walking you through, which means the same change that triggers a reduction is also the change you're on the hook to report. And the window is short, shorter than people assume. Most people treat it like a tax deadline. Well, it's something you get around to eventually when the paperwork season comes. It isn't. It's a matter of days after the change, not months. Here's the trap inside the trap. If you're late, Social Security doesn't stop paying you. It keeps paying you at the old amount, the amount you're no longer entitled to. Every one of those payments is technically an overpayment, and overpayments get collected back. So the punishment for reporting late isn't a fine. It's a bill, months of extra money you never asked for, never noticed, and now owe back, sometimes years later, in a letter with a number on it that stops your heart. That is exactly how the overpayment nightmare starts. And I broke the whole thing down in a separate video today. What the letter looks like, how far back they can go, and what you can actually do about it. It's linked for you. If you've had any life change in the last year, watch that one next. And tell me in the comments, have you ever had to report a change to Social Security? How long did it take you to find out you were even supposed to? So let's turn this into something you can act on, because knowing the trap and standing in it are two different things. The earnings test. Don't quit a job over it. Find out whether you'll be under full retirement age for the entire year or reaching it during the year, because those are two different limits and two different withholding rates. And write this down. Somewhere you'll see it. The withheld money comes back to you as a higher benefit later. Make that decision with a calculator, not with your gut. Federal debt. Go find out what you actually owe today before anything goes delinquent, especially anything you co-signed. Call the loan servicer and ask directly whether the account is current, and if a letter ever arrives from a federal agency about a debt, open it that day. That 60-day notice is the only warning you get, and it's also your window to set up a repayment arrangement before an offset ever starts. Remarriage. This one is simple, and it's the only one on this list you have complete control over. If you're a widow, a widower, or a divorced spouse collecting on someone else's record, find out exactly which benefit you're on before you set a date. If it's a survivor benefit and you're under 60, a wedding date on the wrong side of that birthday costs you the benefit permanently. If it's a divorced spouse benefit on a living ex, the age doesn't protect you at all. Ask Social Security in writing which one you're collecting. Then plan the date around the answers hop, because the date is negotiable and the benefit isn't. Reporting. When something changes, call immediately. Don't wait for a form. And whatever you report, get confirmation and keep it. Date, time, who you spoke to, a reference number. If an overpayment letter ever shows up years from now, that record is the difference between a conversation and a bill, $600. That was the number we started with. A deposit that came in smaller, with no letter, no warning, no explanation. And a person standing in their kitchen trying to figure out what they'd done wrong. The answer, most of the time, is nothing. These 5 run automatically. They don't require your consent and they don't wait for you to understand them. But you're not standing in that kitchen anymore. You know the 4 triggers. You know which hits come back to you and which one doesn't. And you know that the permanent one, the one that's cost people $500,000 over a wedding date, is the one you can still walk away from if you find out which benefit you're actually on before you sign anything. None of this is legal or financial advice. It's a warning, and now it's yours. Take the specifics to someone who works for you. Go make the call.